We are starting to see most of our customers, or a lot of our partners, customers saying, well, we'd just like to manage and maintain our print fleet of thermal printing in exactly the same way they do the traditional office print.
Hello, I'm here at the Zebra Experience Centre in Bourne End, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about what makes Zebra a leader in enterprise technology solutions. So thanks, Rich, for inviting me to the Zebra Experience Centre. It's been really interesting to see the scale of Zebra's products across print, scan, RFID. And on RFID, could you tell us a bit about the trends that you're seeing? Because it just sounds like it's a real opportunity for businesses of all sizes.
It's probably worth mentioning the NFL, because for quite a few years now we've supported the NFL with RFID tracking on the players. So through many of the games, we can actually track the players on the field using these active tags. They have a small battery in them. So these are put on the players' wear, so in the pads and helmets, and they can be tracked on the field to give a whole load of data around the performance on field. So that's one fun application.
Yeah.
And we've had RFID in our portfolio for a long time, many years, and every year it grows and grows and grows. So the main technology we have is passive. So it doesn't have a battery, but it responds to being scanned. And that makes that technology lower cost and therefore more applicable to asset tracking in many different verticals, from manufacturing, retail, healthcare, and logistics as well. So that will typically be used to track packages, high value assets in like a healthcare, so they don't lose it or they can easily find it. And one of the benefits of RFID over traditional barcode technology is you can scan one-to-many and you don't need line of sight either. So they're two of the main benefits.
Yeah, so there's so many different use cases for RFID, and I think it's really interesting to see the NFL example, but I guess a lot of it is then down to the data and asset tracking and those companies being able to utilise the data that's generated from that RFID technology.
Yeah, and generally the RFID will enable a greater amount of data.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a longer amount of memory storage generally, and you have different amounts of memory for different RFID chip. So we have the ability, we have our own sort of data lake or data pool, so we can collate that data. But generally, because we are a channel-centric business, we typically work through the channel, through partners who provide solution offerings to support customers.
Zebra's core business is really around its thermal print and scan technology. Can you tell us a bit about some of these printers you've got on display and how the technology is progressing?
You can see on the table here two examples of our broad range of printers. So this device here is our smallest, most cost-effective industrial printer. So these devices are designed for printing sort of 1,000 labels upwards, typically thousands, a few thousand a day. And the device next to it, which is slightly smaller, is kind of the top end of our desktop printer portfolio. So these are typically designed for up to about 1,000 labels a day, a smaller footprint and slightly more cost effective. But this particular model would have more features than the base industrial printer. So whichever one the customer would need, it provides that kind of crossover. In terms of thermal printing technology, so both of these devices are actually capable of doing both direct thermal and thermal transfer. You would choose, for this particular model, you would choose one or the other. So direct thermal technology is where the media itself reacts thermochromically. So within the printer is a print head. The media put through it has that thermochromic capability, and it will react to heat from the print head. So like a receipt, if you've ever marked a receipt, you'll see it going grey, that's because it's reacting. So the print head will make the image on the media, be it a barcode or a bit of writing, and it would leave that image imprinted. Thermal transfer is slightly different in that it uses a ribbon between the print head and the media, and that transfers the image through the ribbon, which could be wax or a wax resin hybrid or resin. So wax is generally the sort of cheaper, lower grade, and resin is the highest. And thermal transfer is the one that gives you the ability to have the most stable image and the longer lasting, so potentially 10 years or more.
And you mentioned earlier about Zebra going through the channel in terms of its products. What do you see as the opportunity for MSPs and channel partners to actually deliver these solutions? Because I guess you have a lot of customers who've got a legacy infrastructure around these devices, both scanners and printers?
The main opportunity is management of those devices, and secondarily the ability to have a better sort of cost option for the customer. So the minute these devices are typically bought upfront cost with an MSP, then they could potentially provide them on a contract basis. So in terms of the management, we find that most of our customers have no idea how much they're spending on thermal print, be it hardware or the labels, the media that goes through it. And we're starting to see most of our customers, or a lot of our customers saying, well, we'd just like to manage and maintain our print fleet of thermal printing in exactly the same way they do the traditional office print. So today we can manage the devices, but a proper managed print service would provide the ability to have real insights, real time of the devices and also the media that's being used, and then provide a contract.
It just sounds like a real opportunity because, as you mentioned, in the office print industry, MPS is quite well established. And I think with customers who may have a very distributed fleet of thermal printers, it's an opportunity for channel partners to understand or help them understand the devices they've already got, optimise that, and provides opportunity to sell new devices as well.
In terms of the benefits to be had, I think one of the biggest is the potential for what we call churn of current or older technology. And I think also another benefit is for traditional office print partners is that this technology is probably the closest to their known world in terms of a diversification. So if they wanted to expand their business and diversify into other technologies, this is very close to what they do. And often it's a case of just walking through another door, speaking to a different team at an existing customer base. So I always kind of say where the carpet ends. So if you're doing office print, you're generally in an environment where there's carpet, but many of those customers might have an operation through a different door, like a warehouse or a factory floor where there isn't carpet, or retail store, or healthcare. How are they doing their printing there? How are they identifying assets? How are they labeling? So often it's just a quick conversation to say, kind of go and speak to that team, or how are you doing your label, your shipping, and then that opens up the potential to say, well, I can easily discover what printers you've got using some software. Let me help you manage them. Let me help you put them into your existing contract. And
as you say, it's almost a very natural progression for them to move to Office MPS to thermal MPS. And finally, could you just tell us a bit about the trends we're seeing in the barcodes? I know we have 1D barcodes, 2D barcodes, and I think it'd be really useful to understand what's happening there and the regulatory impact that surrounds that as well.
So the 1D barcode is kind of where Zebra stems from, and hence the zebra crossing. So Zebra is 55 years young, so we actually started in 1969. The first barcode was used in 1974 in a pack of Wrigley's in the States. So that technology has been around for many, many years. I would imagine that technology is going to be around for many more years to come. So in terms of the maturity of customers using technology, we tend to, as we're a global company, we tend to see that parts of the world, parts of verticals, parts of industries will move and mature faster than others. We are seeing some interesting trends in the world of barcoding, which two main ones are the move to 2D barcodes. So the 1D is the traditional zebra crossing style ladder, barcode. And the 2D barcode is what probably most people will know as a QR, but there are different versions. And so the GS1, the global standards, they are moving to a new standard called the Digital Link. And that is basically a new code that facilitates a much greater amount of information to be stored in or behind the code, and also provide a link to a web address. So you can store more information about the product itself, where it's come from, how it's made, etc., etc. The other change we're seeing is the move to something called a digital product passport, which kind of uses the same technology as the digital link, uses a digital trigger, which is a 2D barcode. And similarly, that has the ability to store information behind that code. But the outcome of that is to understand whether that product is more sustainable, more ethical, trace authenticity, and also have chain of custody in the supply chain. So we are seeing those changes in both standards and legislation for technology. I think it's fair to say that we will see 1D barcode around for many years, but in the next decade you'll see that shift to 2D.
Really interesting. I really appreciate you taking the time to show me around the Experience Centre, and it's really clear to see how Zebra is leading the kind of print to digital conversions, the fact that it's got thermal printers, scanners, RFID technology, and is able to scale this for businesses of all sizes and different verticals. So really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
I've learned so much about Zebra's technologies across print, scan and RFID, and how it's really leading the market in terms of print and digital conversions for its customers.